It is that time again. The Philadelphia 76ers are getting ready to open up their season against the Milwaukee Bucks. There's a lot of favorite faces not going to be playing here tonight. We're going to break it all down and a season preview coming up right here on Locked On.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 76ers. Kayla Santiago, Keith Pompey here with you each and every day. And your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On 76ers daily newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with all new free Locked On 76ers newsletter. It's going to be a fantastic season coming up for some teams and maybe not for Philadelphia 76ers. We will get into that. And of course, today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. So it is finally time for the regular season. But right now we're looking at it saying, you're not going to see two of the three stars, Paul George and Joel Embiid, being ruled out for this game here today. Keith, it's kind of what I expected to see. We were talking about yesterday that Joel Embiid hasn't played in 5-on-5 scrimmages. They're probably going to hold Paul George out. I just like that they're kind of keeping a standard for one and the other, not forcing PG back while Joel Embiid is not going to play. Some injuries on the side from Milwaukee, too, Chris Middleton being one to name. It's going to be an interesting start to this season because I don't think we're really going to see these two for a bit of time. PG at least maybe a week, and Joel Embiid, now there's conversations not seeing him until possibly later November, early December. Nick Nurse gave the media just a little bit there, Keith. What was your take from this whole entire media day, the announcement, and everything in between?
You know, I took it like it was a conversation that Nick Nurse didn't really want to have with the media. You know, I took it as if it was one of those things where it was like, hey, I don't feel like talking about this. You know, I want to prepare for the game that we have tomorrow in the upcoming season. But he kind of knew that he had to have the conversation. The biggest takeaway is that, you know what, to me was that Nick Nurse, even if he's a little disappointed that Joel's not playing, he's publicly supporting this guy. He's going to go down with him because a lot of the conversation was, well, and I asked him, I said, Nick, you know, you're talking about ramping up. Did Joel actually injure himself in the Olympics because he was playing, you know, and then he goes to the Olympics and he plays and now all of a sudden it's ramp up. Oh, no, he's fine. He's fine. Nick was even asked, you know, is it one of those things where you guys look at it and you're a little disappointed that he went to the Olympics? And he's like, no. So publicly he was supporting him. But, you know, the thing is, this is not an ideal situation for any coach to start the season with, not just without Embiid, but without your second best player, right? So, and that's what Paul George is, 6-time All-Star, the second best player. So you know, so it's a crazy situation, but the distraction just started because people are going to continue to ask until Joel Embiid gets back on the floor.
Yeah, I think Nick Nurse is probably going to have to get used to these questions being asked because he's the star player. He's the reason you got Paul George. There's been a lot of conversation of him not playing back-to-back so they can be ready to get out of the second round this coming year in the playoffs. Now, my takeaway is it's kind of what I expected from Joel Embiid going into this season. He didn't really play or practice at all throughout that preseason with the 5-on-5s with the entire team. So you kind of look at it now and you say, okay, this is exactly what we might have thought. But when you see the headlines, both are out for the first game of the year, it's tougher than you might be able to take it because nobody wants to see a team with Joel Embiid and Paul George not play with those guys against the Milwaukee Bucks in game 1 of the year. The NBA definitely doesn't want to see it because I think maybe not as many people will draw their eyes to that contest, but it's going to be a little bit of time before we really figure out who the Sixers team is going to be. it's going to have to be tough for Nick Nurse. And we've talked about it consistently. My other takeaway from this is that Tyrese Maxey is going to have a lot on his shoulders, a lot of pressure. What are you expecting to see from him, their third star coming out? Because he's going to have to be the guy, and it might be for longer than we actually know at this point of time.
I honestly expect Paul George to play at either Sunday or Wednesday against Detroit. I do. I think that this is preliminary stuff. I mean, the thing about Tyrese, once Paul gets back, I think it's going to be a whole lot better. You know what I mean? For him, I think initially it's going to be, tonight it's going to be one of those things where he's trying to do a lot. He's going to have to try to will the team. And I just don't know if he has enough horse. Now, again, I like what the guys have. I think they're good, but they're role players, right? They're positioned to be role players. Now, I mean, you have a guy like Kelly Oubre who can score and do other things, but for the most part, you have a lot of guys who are role players, and you're going to ask them to try to be superstars. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of pressure on Tyrese.
A lot of pressure. And then we talked about yesterday, who do we want to see step up? And it has to be Kelly Oubre. And you look at other pieces like Caleb Martin, and you look at Nick Nurse right now, and clearly Nick Nurse has dealt with this with Kawhi Leonard, but it seems like Joel Embiid's going to play a lot less games than Kawhi Leonard did when the Raptors were able to win the NBA championship. So you not only have one star down, you now have 2 star downs for your opener. And you look at the schedule, you have the Bucks, the Raptors, the Pacers, the Pistons, and the Grizzlies in the first 2 weeks. I don't see Joel make an appearance in any of those games. And really, Keith, the conversation is going to be, not is Joel ready, but when are we even going to see him on 5-on-5 practices? When are we going to be able to see him play with the other guys? Because a game can't happen until that happens for Joel. And right now it's not looking too great. And everybody is going to speculate about the injury or not injury getting aggravated in the Olympics at this point, because what other reason could there be? Are you just really making it precautionary that he can't play the season opener? I understand not playing him back-to-backs, but at the same time, clearly something was aggravated in the Olympics. Yes, it's important for Joel to be healthy for the playoffs, but at the same time, this is the start of the year. This is when you gain the chemistry. It's going to be tough, I think, definitely in the beginning. We're going to talk about in just a moment here. I think the Sixers are going to have a slow start, though, especially even if PG does come back. With no Joel Embiid, Keith, this team's just going to be a completely different team.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be – it is a completely different team. And when we look at it, I mean, right now, you'll have KJ Martin as the power forward. You'll have Andre Drummond as the center. You'll have Eric Gordon as a 2 guard, Maxey at the 1, and Kelly Oubre at the 3. And the goal is get out and run, do whatever you can, and try to score more points than the other team, crash the boards, do whatever you can. And like you said, it's a completely different team because when Embiid comes back, even though he's slimmed down, you're going to want to get him in like a half-court offense, right, and run the offense through him. Let him be the quarterback of the gym, so to speak. So it's going to be completely different. They may struggle. The one thing is, like as we talked about yesterday, guys are going to have to step up and show what they can do, but it's definitely not an ideal situation. No.
That it is not. And I know a lot of people might say, okay, well, you wanted them to be healthy for the playoffs. Well, here you go. This is going to start. And of course, that's what everybody wants. The no back-to-backs is one thing. Not playing in the regular season opener is another. But the 76ers are going to try to prove everybody wrong. And Tyrese Maxey is still Tyrese Maxey. We're going to see who's going to be able to step up tonight, a 7:30 p.m. tip-off against Milwaukee Bucks. But it is a long season, so we're going to take a look at the overlay of what this season will look like, where we project the Sixers to be, if they can get some wins under the belt without the 2 stars and Joel Embiid and Paul George if they're out on back-to-backs, and what that will look like down the line. But hey, NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So make sure you go check out FanDuel today and visit FanDuel.com. So some Thursday night action. Minnesota Vikings right now are -3.5 favorites. That's going to be a good game. Minnesota has been very, very good so far this year. They're -3.5 favorites over the Rams. And then you look at a Philadelphia team, and although the Eagles were able to win over the weekend, they are underdogs going into the contest against the Bengals. It's the Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts matchup. Go over to FanDuel right now. There's some spreads on the players individually, and then, of course, the game too. Fantastic parlays that you can check out right now at FanDuel.com. So head over to America's #1 sportsbook. All right, so this is where it gets a little bit scary here. We're going to take a look at what we project these teams to be coming into this season. So first and foremost, we have to take a look at opening night for the NBA last night. The Boston Celtics, they already look scary. They come out on top against the Knicks, 132-109. The Philadelphia 76ers starting out their season not at full strength at this point of the year. So we're going to look at it right now. I'm a little bit scared, Keith, seeing how the Boston Celtics are just going to be at the top unless somebody gets injured. And, of course, you don't wish that on any NBA team. Right now for Philadelphia, I think they're going to have a slow start. I said that in the last segment. How do you project the season going at this point? Where do you see them without getting into the postseason? How does the regular season look like for you, knowing that one of your stars is not going to play in those back-to-backs, and we don't know when he is going to come back to play on this team?
You know, I think the 76ers will still be a 50-win team. I do. I think they could go 51-31. And, you know, I keep going up and down on that. Sometimes I'm talking about the 49. Sometimes I'm going 51. I think that they'll probably finish third in the East. Based off of last night's game, if they're healthy, I think they can finish number 2 in the East, above the New York Knicks and behind the Boston Celtics. But I do think that, you know, right now, because of Embiid's going to miss some games and they'll probably slide in the standings a little bit, but not too far, I believe that they're going to finish third in the Eastern Conference behind Boston and New York.
You know, that's exactly my prediction, too, at this point. And I say that, usually I like to agree to disagree, but I do say that because you look at it right now, and looking at the standings last year, the issue became when you went below that 48 mark, right? You look at the Magic with 47 wins a season ago, the Pacers as well with 47, and then the 76ers with 47 too. All of them right behind each other, but the Sixers dropping in 7th going into that play-in tournament. A lot of things happening last year, moving things around. The Celtics on top with 64. But if you can get 50 wins like the Knicks were able to do last year, they were the 2nd seed going into the NBA playoffs. And right behind them was the Milwaukee Bucks with 49 in that 3rd seed. So I agree with you, Keith. I think I'm going to go with them at 50 wins and come down to those one-on-one matchups. I do think that they are going to fall behind the New York Knicks, though. I think the Knicks are going to take some time to get together. And we talked about this earlier on in the season. Is it going to be the Celtics and then everybody else this year? And based on what we saw tonight, it's either the Knicks aren't all they're cracked up to be or the Celtics are really that team. Now, I said in the beginning of the preseason that Jason Tatum is one of my favorites for MVP because a lot of people constantly say, well, you have a fantastic team. So I just think he's going to go off this year and try to get a regular season award. But I look at it right now and I say to myself, okay, the New York Knicks are going to take some time to gel. The Sixers are going to take some time to gel too. I'm going to have the Sixers in 3rd in the East, projecting them with 50 wins this season, the Knicks above them at 2, and then the Celtics just above everybody at 1 right now. But it's going to be interesting because you kind of look at the Eastern Conference right now, and the Bucks also dealing with injuries. They're probably going to have a slow start. So there's going to be a lot of slower starts than I think that we're predicting right now, besides, of course, the Boston Celtics coming off an NBA Finals victory.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. But you know, the difference between the Sixers and the Knicks is that these guys are out there playing, right? Mm-hmm. So the Sixers, the one thing that they have to worry about is continuity, is guys learning their roles. They need to play in enough games. But the one thing is, you look at it from a talent standpoint, you know, they do have enough talent to compete with the Boston Celtics. It's just a matter of can they do continuity. if they can get enough of it. But here's the one thing: looking at that Knicks score, and I'm looking and I'm seeing how Brunson only had a couple assists. Cat didn't really do anything. I'm looking at it like, well, maybe, Boston has the formula for getting them out their game. Or maybe they lost like DiVincenzo. They lost, a Julius Randle. Like maybe this is going to come back to hurt them more so than we thought. And if so, then I think the Sixers could possibly creep up. Although you and I both have them at third, but just by basing off of this score. And again, I get it. It's one game out of 82, but look at it, it's kind of like it might be some cracks in the armor, so to speak.
I definitely think their defense didn't get much better. I think it got worse if you're looking at the New York Knicks at this point. And just to put out there, a lot of people say, well, Karl-Anthony Towns, he's going to be able to defend Joel Embiid. Probably not, first and foremost. Secondly, he had 7 rebounds. So did Jaylen Brown. So clearly, Cat isn't doing what he needs to do early on in the season. Now, once again, it's a very long season in the NBA. But when you look at it right now, the Celtics just have so many different playmakers. Karl-Anthony Towns only with 12 points, as you alluded to, Keith, already. I mean, definitely not somebody that made an impact right away, looking to make it more down the line. Also has dealt with injuries, though, throughout his career. Mikal Bridges, his shot doesn't look that great. It's very strange how it's been messed up, especially throughout this preseason. So you point that out. And Anunoby, 4 points. This offseason acquisition, that was fantastic. 4 points. Josh Hart with 12, Brunson with 22, and only 2 assists. So can the Sixers creep up there? Maybe. I don't think so. And I say that because there's just going to be so many games without Joel Embiid. And although I do think that Paul George and Tyrese Maxey can be a really good duo, Joel Embiid is a difference maker, especially down the stretch. When we've already talked about, we've seen Tyrese Maxey play fantastic 3 quarters, and then sometimes in the 4th quarter, he's gassed and just looking, where is everybody else to help me at this point? I think it's going to be tough with you already knowing Joel's not going to play back-to-backs and not knowing when he is going to come back to start off this season. So I look at it earlier in the year, and I'm going to make a prediction out there, and I don't think a lot of people are going to like this. I think the Sixers actually lose tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think that they're going to be able to get things together without Joel Embiid and Paul George. Now, granted, the one thing, Keith, before I go to the rest of the week, what I will say is the chemistry that's been brewed and built has been with Tyrese Maxey and everybody else. It hasn't been with Paul George and Joel Embiid on this team. So maybe we're wrong, and maybe they'll figure it out there, because all preseason long, that's what it's been.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's been. And that's the scary part, because, that just lets you know how far behind they are. Like, think about it. In the beginning of preseason training camp, Nick Nurse raved about how, like, they were so much further ahead than they were last season, right? Mm-hmm. Nah, it's not the same. It's like you're a little bit behind in a way, because at least you knew that you were going to make a trade. I mean, they made a trade like the first week in the season, basically, and then they got these new guys in. Now they're still waiting for guys to get injured. Get healthy. So it's tough. I mean, it's a tough way to go for the 76ers.
It is tough. And I think the one thing is, besides the beginning of Joel's career when he got drafted with the Sixers and had to sit out for some time, it hasn't really been this bad to start out the season, not hearing him play in these 5-on-5 scrimmages, just how slow it's been, kind of the lack of, nothing's going on. He's totally fine. He's lost a bunch of weight. Well, where is he? Why isn't he practicing with the entire team? What's going on here? Keith, what is your prediction overall for tomorrow night before we get into our next segment? At the end, let's do final score and leading scorer predictions. But right now, do you think the 76ers can pull this out against the Bucks to start out their year?
Nope. And I'm saying that, and then watch they go out there and win. No, I just think that right now, this is a game. When it comes down to having injured players, you say, okay, so who's the best player on the floor? And you say it's Giannis. Right. Okay. So who's the best player on the floor for the Sixers? Maxey. Okay. Well, who's the second best player for the Bucks? Dame. Okay. Now who's going to combat that for the Sixers? Kelly Oubre maybe, like offensively, right? Or is it Andre Drummond? Like you don't know.
Right.
Like I just feel like is in the game where stars are king in this league. I feel like the fact that they have 2 stars and the Sixers have 1, that the Sixers are going to be in trouble. And who knows? They can attack Dame, they can do whatever, but I feel as if that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to, win against the Sixers. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. It depends on if the Sixers want to come and play hard, but I definitely believe the Bucks are going to win this game.
We're in agreement here today, Keith. Unfortunately, I think we can both say that it's unfortunate that we're really starting on the negative side to start out the season, but it's just the reality of the situation. You look at Giannis, you look at Dame right now, and yes, Middleton is out, but those are 2 really good players and nobody really to defend Giannis on the Philadelphia 76ers. But there still is more to touch on before we get into the full regular season. How will the Sixers look when it comes playoff time? Will it be worth it to sit Joel Embiid throughout the regular season to get him ready to try to get Philadelphia out of the second round? We will have to wait and see. But there is still a big opportunity to be able to go to this game. Everything you need is going to be on Game Time. You won't want to miss out on this fantastic opportunity. And even though Joel Embiid and Paul George won't be playing, it is still going to be a great crowd for Game 1 of the regular season. 76ers versus Bucks. You still have a chance to buy those tickets with Game Time, the super deal. Section 120, you could be in the ice row, the top 1% value for $120, an amazing deal that you cannot miss out on. And also, we have the upper deck at $18. That's out of the top 5%. What better way than to watch a game with Game Time deals? Nothing. Make sure you take the guesswork out of buying Game Time tickets by downloading the Game Time app. That's all you have to do today. Make an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON. NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Make sure you download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It is game time. And indeed, it is game time for the Philadelphia 76ers tonight. But we want to take a look even deeper because the whole point of Joel Embiid now playing in back-to-backs and starting off slow this season is so that he can be ready for the postseason. And a lot of people are going to be looking at that right now. When will they see Joel play? Will it be worth it? And of course, we all hope that we do. I think the biggest takeaway here is that that's exactly what the Philadelphia 76ers are preparing for. Now, you look at it, we have them projected to hit that 3 seed. Keith, you have a little bit higher if the Knicks start off slow, if they can't get their chemistry down, if Jalen Brunson doesn't have the performance we all think he will this year, maybe the 76ers could slide up at 2. But we're talking about postseason. So they get into the playoffs. All is fine and dandy. Do you think that this will pay off with sitting Joel? And do you think it's finally time to break the curse of getting out of the second round and then making it? Or how will this play out? It's a long season. It's a long time away. But this is what everybody is keeping their eye on right now because Joel is not playing early on in this regular season.
And that's the tough one because, like, we were talking about losing continuity. Guys don't know their roles. I don't think you can turn it on in the playoffs. I don't. I think as the number 3 seed, yes, you're gonna beat the number 6 seed in the first round. You may even sweep them, right? But when it comes down to the second round, that means you're going to play. If New York finishes second, you're going to play the Knicks. The Knicks have home court advantage. With that being said, I don't know if the 76ers are going to get out of the second round. Again, now if Joel Embiid plays in more games, and he doesn't get injured, and if Paul George does the same thing, I think that the Sixers will be tough to beat in the playoffs. But if we're going at it where Joel's missing X amount of games for load management, he may have another injury, or he's missing games because he needs to ramp up, and then then you're trying to load manage Paul George. I don't see the Sixers being able to flip that switch in the postseason, and I see them losing in the second round.
Wow. People aren't going to be happy about that, Keith. I hope we don't see that. But I like the analysis there because another thing you have to think about too. There's been years where Joel Embiid has also gotten hurt in the first round of playoffs, right? So it could be a really good, healthy regular season. Then all of a sudden, round one comes along, or even round two, and Joel's all of a sudden injured. Then it was kind of all for nothing at this point. Now, it's interesting you bring up that point because the biggest thing is you want Joel and Paul George, really. Paul George has had also a history of injuries to be healthy for the playoffs. But at the same time, do you really want to see the Knicks in the second round? Maybe not. So seeding might matter, but seeding can't matter if you don't play your best players all the time during the regular season. So it's basically a rotating door of what do we do? How do we make this work? The thing is, I do trust Nick Nurse because Nick Nurse has been able to do this with Kawhi Leonard. The other caveat of that is that I do think the Philadelphia 76ers are going to get out of the second round. I say this a lot, and I'm usually wrong, so I'm hoping this year is the year that I am correct. I think they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, though, because I don't think there's any way that Boston won't make it to the ECF. I think they're able to go to the finals again, unless they have an injury on their side. But I do think that they break the barrier this year. Now, the biggest question is, if they do not get past the second round, whose team does this become the year after? Joel signs the extension. We get it. We understand that. But there's going to be a lot of conversations surrounding his name if all of this load management was for nothing for them to end up in the same place, Keith.
That's a great question. That's a great question. I want to come out and say it's going to be Maxey's team if that happens. But at the same time, I do feel like at least for the next couple of years, like this year and next year at least, that it's always is going to be Embiid's team, right? I do. Mm-hmm. And I also believe that, right now Embiid is saying that, you know what, I'm trying to be a great teammate. I'm trying to get Maxey involved. We're going to run through him a lot. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Let's just say if he does that and they go out in the second round, well, then guess what's going to happen? Well, maybe I need to take more of a leadership role on the court, meaning, lead by example, lead by my play. And I feel like that was going to happen. But I really want to say Maxey, but I think that if they do everything the way they say they are and they struggle, Embiid's going to try to take over again.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, we all know that Embiid's a fantastic talent. We see it on the floor when he's able to play, but when is he able to play? Why is it consistently the same story of them not being able to get out of the second round? Now, trust me, I understand that year after year, it always hasn't been the issue of Joel Embiid. His co-stars haven't been great. You look at Ben Simmons, you look at James Harden in years past. But it's a common theme of Joel not being healthy in the playoffs and them getting bounced out of the second round. So at some point, even if Maxey doesn't play top tier or Paul George, Joel Embiid is going to have to take some blame. And I can't stand saying that because I think a lot of people want to see him take this team at least past the second round. But at the same point, it is the same theme year after year. I think the 76ers have to make it out of the second round this year, or it's absolutely Tyrese Maxey's team. And I say that because at this point, you cannot not put the blame on Joel Embiid. Even if he puts up 40 points, then it's going to be, well, why did you play in the Olympics? Because then you weren't healthy to start the regular season and the chemistry wasn't there with the team. And you get bounced out of the second round. Again, it's a rotating door. Once again, my head hurts thinking about it. So it's going to be interesting to see. But Keith, before we send things off here, it is game one of the season and exciting that the NBA is back, even if the 76ers aren't at full strength. So first things first, your prediction of a final score, who you think is going to stand out? Who do you think is going to have the most points on both sides?
That's great. And you keep coming up with these questions, putting me on the spot. On both sides, I think Maxey will probably, believe it or not, I think Maxey will have like 32 points. Mm-hmm. I think he'll have 32 points. Dame can't stop him. I love Dame, but Dame can't stop him. I do think that Giannis is going to have, I'll say Maxey will have like a game high 32. I'll say Giannis will have around 27 points, maybe like 10 rebounds, 11 rebounds. With that being said, I do think that the Milwaukee Bucks will probably win by a score of 106 to 98.
Whew. Low scoring game for Philadelphia. I'm going to have to agree with you again. It's been a ton of agreeing in this episode. And I think it's just going to be tough. The Sixers don't have a lot of scores. I think my one thing I do say is I'm going to flip your opinion on the game-leading score. I'm going to go Giannis having 35 points just because there's nobody defensively that can stop him on the Philadelphia 76ers. There's just not. Tyrese Maxey, I'm going to give him 30, getting in the 30s as well. And I'm going to give Dame Dalla 25 points too for the Milwaukee Bucks. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to go 110-98 final score. And Andre Drummond, I do think he's going to be the rebound king. I do think that he's going to have at least 10 rebounds. I'm going to go 10 to 12 rebounds for Andre Drummond. I don't think he's going to have a crazy scoring high game. I just don't see it happening for him. But Giannis definitely has my pick for player of the game tonight and being able to be a part of that. So we're going to wait and see. Keith, before we set things off, all I'm going to say is I hope we're both wrong. I hope they surprise us.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. It would be a great story, though.
It would be a great story. And then Nick Nurse would say, hey, I told you guys, Joel Embiid might not be playing, but this has been a fantastic offseason. We're in better shape than we were last year. We're going to wait and see. Philadelphia 76ers and Milwaukee Bucks, they play tonight at 7:30 p.m. And we will hash it all out early tomorrow morning to see our post-game reactions and what this team can do against the Milwaukee Bucks here tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. And your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On 76ers Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to you in your inbox. Sign up free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On 76ers newsletter. First game of the season. We'll be recapping it all tomorrow. Thanks all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers.